Have you ever felt the silent weight of the passing years, as if each birthday brought with it an invisible charge? Have you been calculating how old are you remains to achieve your goals, as if life were a race against a ruthless timer? And, more deeply, have you ever wondered if this urgency you feel is really yours, or if it's an imposition of a world that has turned time into commodity? At 30 or more, we meet at a single existential crossroads. On the one hand, biological urgency whispers about fertility, physical energy, and opportunity windows that seem to close. On the other, social pressure shouts on Marcos that we should have achieved consolidated career, stable relationship, own home, children. Between these two contrary winds, our soul is often lost, forgetting its own inner compass. As a psychiatrist and survivor of concentration camps, I learned that time is not just a chronological measure, but a deeply personal existential dimension. In the fields where every second could be the last one, I found that the meaning we attribute to our time is infinitely more important than its quantity. This understanding, later developed in logotherapy, offers a liberating perspective for those who feel prisoners of their own temporal expectations. The tyranny of social time. We live in a society that created a kind of universal schedule for happiness. At 20, we must discover our vocation. To 30, to be established professionally. 40, having reached family and financial stability. This collective agenda, though well-meaning, can become an existential force shirt. The social pressure of time manifests itself in subtle and persistent forms. It's present in the seemingly innocent question, and then when the wedding comes, directed to those who are single to 35. It echoes the anxiety of those who change their career to 40, feeling late in relation to peers. It resonates with the silent despair of those who have not had children and feel the biological clock ticking. But here lies a fundamental truth that logotherapy teaches us. Authentic life cannot be lived according to external schedules. Each human existence has its own rhythm, its own stations, its own moments of flowering. Forcing our individual nature to conform to collective temporal expectations is a form of violence against our own essence. Biological time, reality or construction, it is undeniable that our bodies operate within certain temporal limitations. Female fertility declines with age, our physical energy reaches peaks and valleys, our learning ability changes over the years. These are biological realities that we cannot simply ignore through positive thinking. However, our interpretation of these realities is deeply influenced by our existential perspective. A 38-year-old woman who has no children can live this reality as an irreparable tragedy, or as a unique journey that will make her discover alternative forms of creation and care. The difference is not in biology, but in the sense it attributes to your experience. During my years in the concentration camp, I observed something extraordinary. People of the same age, subjected to the same extreme conditions, responded in dramatically different ways. Some aged decades in weeks while others kept a surprising vitality. The difference was not only in physical resistance, but in the ability to find meaning in your experience, no matter how terrible it was. This leads us to a crucial understanding. Our biological time is not just a matter of chronology, but how we live our own existence. A person who lives with clear purpose can experience a vitality that transcends his apparent biological limitations. Patience as existential virtue. In our instant gratification culture, patience has become almost a bad word. We are bombarded with messages about efficiency, optimization, and acceleration. Time is money, we say, how to reduce human existence to a commercial transaction. But true patience is not passivity or resignation. It is an active form of confidence in the natural process of life. It is the ability to remain present on our journey, even when we cannot clearly see fate. It is to accept that some of the most precious fruits of existence require time to mature. Remember a patient, Elena, who at the age of 34, desperate for not finding her purpose of life. She had changed her career 3 times, ending a long relationship, and felt like she was wasting time, while her peers seemed to have everything resolved. In our meetings, she often said, "Dr. Frankl, I feel like I'm late in life." During our sessions, I helped Elena recognize that her apparently erratic journey was not a deviation from her way. It was her way. Each career change had taught him something essential about herself. Every relationship that did not work had refined its understanding of love. His supposed delay in finding direction was actually a necessary process of self-discovery. Elena's transformation began when she stopped seeing her life as a race to get somewhere and began to see her as a rich and significant exploration. She has learned that true patience is the ability to honor the time our soul needs to develop. The authentic urgency versus the urgency imposed. Not all urgency is problematic. There is an authentic urgency that emerges from our deep connection with our purpose. When we discover something that really matters to us, a natural energy arises, pushing us to action. This is the urgency of the call, not the timer. The urgency imposed, on the other hand, comes from external sources: family, expectations, social pressures, comparisons with others. This artificial urgency generates anxiety because it disconnects us from our natural rhythm and forces us to run after goals that may not even be ours. How to distinguish between these two forms of urgency? Authentic urgency is accompanied by a sense of internal alignment even if the path is challenging. There is a quality of flow, being in the right place doing the right thing. The urgency imposed, on the contrary, generates constant tension, diffuse anxiety, and a feeling of always running after something that remains out of reach. A powerful example of this is Marcus, an executive of 42 years who sought me during a professional crisis. He had spent 15 years climbing the corporate hierarchy, driven by the urgency of winning in life before the 40. Now, having reached a senior position, he felt completely empty. "Dr. Frankl," he said, "I got everything I thought I wanted, but I feel like I had lost my life in the process." The work with Marcus involved distinguishing between the urgency that had driven him, based on external expectations and comparisons, and a deeper urgency that was emerging, a call to contribute more significantly to the world. When he finally had the courage to leave his corporate job to start a non-profit organization, the quality of his energy has completely changed. Frantic anxiety has been replaced by a serene determination. The paradox of temporal control. One of the most frustrating aspects of temporal pressure is the illusion that we can control our timing in life. We plan thoroughly when you have children, when you buy a house, when you make a career change. And when life does not follow our schedule, we feel like flaws. But here is a liberating truth that universal human experience teaches us. The most significant moments of our lives rarely come according to our plans. True love appears when we least expect it. Career opportunities come at unexpected times. Clarity over our purpose often emerges during periods of confusion. This does not mean that we should be passive or avoid making plans. It means recognizing that there is a wisdom in life that transcends our ability to control. Our task is not to force events to conform to our schedule, but to become receptive to the opportunities that life presents us. During my own journey, I tried it deeply. My plans to become a neurologist were interrupted by the war. The years I spent in the concentration camps were not in any agenda I had made for my life. However, it was exactly this unplanned experience that gave birth to logotherapy and allowed me to contribute to the relief of human suffering in ways I had never imagined. Redefining Mark and Achievement Society offers us predefined milestones to measure success: age to marry, age to have children, age to reach certain professional levels. But what if these miles were just suggestions, no commandments? What if each person had the right to define their own indicators of a well-lived life? I met a woman, Sarah, who at 45 decided to have her first child. According to conventional standards, she was late. According to her own journey, she was exactly at the right time. She had spent her 20 and 30 years exploring the world, building a significant career and developing the emotional maturity she now brought to motherhood. Another example is David, a teacher who at the age of 50 returned to university to study art. His colleagues thought he was having a middle-aged crisis. In fact, he was responding to a call he had ignored for decades, focused on being responsible and practical. His art flourished in ways that would never have been possible if he had followed this path earlier. Authentic life requires the courage to write our own definition of success, based on our unique values, not collective expectations. This is not selfishness. It is existential honesty. The spiritual dimension of time. In logotherapy, we recognize that humans have a spiritual dimension that transcends both biological and psychological. This spiritual dimension has its own relationship with time, a relationship that is not governed by chronicle or calendars, but by moments of meaning and connection. Have you noticed how time seems to stop during times of deep beauty or connection? How can a significant conversation make hours pass like minutes? How can anxiety make minutes feel like eternities? This suggests that our temporal experience is deeply influenced by the quality of our presence and engagement. When we are aligned with our purpose, when we are living according to our deepest values, our relationship with time transforms. It is not that we have more time, but we use the time we have more consciously and satisfactorily. Practical strategies to navigate temporal pressure. 1. The practice of reflective pause. When you feel the urgency going up, practice stopping and asking, is this urgency coming from inside or outside? I'm running towards something I really want or running away from something I fear. Redefining delay. Instead of thinking in terms of being late, consider that you may be on a different schedule. Ask yourself, what did my unique journey taught me that I couldn't have learned following the conventional path? Identifying personal temporal values. Make a list of how you really want to spend your time, based on your values, not on the expectations of others. Use this as a guide to daily decisions. Practicing intentional presence. Dedicate daily time to be completely present at the present time without worrying about the past or the future. This can be through meditation, contemplation of nature, or simply attention to everyday activities. Cultivating active patience. Instead of seeing patience as passive waiting, see it as active preparation. Use waiting periods to develop skills, deepen relationships, or explore interests. The wisdom of natural cycles. Nature offers us a powerful model to understand time. The trees do not worry about flourishing at the right time. They respond to the conditions they find. Some flourish early, others later, but each contributes their unique beauty to the largest cycle of life. Similarly, our lives have stations. There are long time to sow and time to reap, times to grow and time to rest. Forcing one season when another is appropriate leads to exhaustion and frustration. I learned this by observing the cycles of my own patients over the years. Those who tried to artificially accelerate their healing process often found resistance. Those who respected the time needed for real transformation often experienced deeper and more lasting changes. The legacy beyond the timer. In the end, when we reflect on a well-lived life, we rarely think in terms of fulfilled schedules. We think of moments of connection, contributions made, in love given and received, in personal growth achieved. We think of the meaning we created and the impact we had. Viktor, a survivor of the fields I met, used to say, "No matter how long you live, but how you live the time you have." He died 93, but even if he had lived only 50, his life would have been complete because he was filled with purpose and love. This perspective does not minimize the real pain of losing opportunities or facing temporal limitations. Recognizes this pain as it offers a broader structure to understand our journey. The courage to live out of schedule. Perhaps the bravest act we can accomplish is decide to live our lives according to our own internal chronology, not external expectations. This requires courage because it means accepting that we can be misunderstood, judged, or questioned by others who are still arrested on conventional schedules. But this courage is essential to authenticity. As I wrote In Search of Meaning, everything can be taken from a man except one thing, the last of human freedoms, choosing his own attitude in any set of circumstances, choosing his way, integrating urgency and patience. Mature wisdom does not reside in choosing between urgency or patience, but in consciously integrating. There are times for decisive action and moments to expect contemplative. Art is in discerning which one is appropriate when. This integration comes naturally when we are connected with our authentic purpose. When we know deeply why we do what we do, we develop an intuition on when to press and when to allow, when to act, and when to reflect. Conclusion: time as an ally. Between urgency and patience, there is a third way, that of conscious presence. When we stop fighting time and start dancing with him, we find that he can become our most powerful ally. Your unique journey, with all your delays and accelerations, is exactly what it needs to be. Each moment of frustration with the schedule, every apparently unproductive waiting period, every decision to follow its own pace, all this is weaving the unique rug of its existence. The temporal pressure you feel is not a sign that you are failing. It's an invitation to examine more deeply what really matters to you. It is an opportunity to consciously choose how you want to live the time you have, instead of being inhabited by the expectations of others. Remember, you are not late in life. You are exactly where you need to be to learn what you need to learn. And this is not an empty consolation. It is a deep existential truth that can completely transform its relationship with time and with oneself. If these reflections played something in you, if you recognized your own struggle between urgency and patience, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Here we will continue to explore together the unique challenges of adulthood, always with the conviction that each phase of life has its own wisdom to offer. Your journey matters, your timing is valid, and your growth continues. We are not just getting older, we are becoming.